Alright, so this is a very quick build review and flight test of the HobbyMate x130 X-style frame. Let me go ahead and show you the frame itself. Right now I have built the top section, and let me show you each side so you can see how it's actually built. You have the side plates. You have a rear plate for mounting the video transmitter and a top plate which the video transmitter can pass through. The kit also comes with the 4 20 amp ESCs. If you've never touched these and you're not familiar with them, I strongly encourage you to make these your new standard for ESCs. They're fantastic in size and performance, and they're BLHeli-S capable. So these are the ESCs that we'll be using for this build kit. Let's go ahead and work on assembling this. The next step is mounting this ESC to the frame and shortening up the motor wires and soldering them in place. And I'm not going to put them on this top location because there's not enough room. Instead, I'm going to flip the quad over and have them mounted here on the bottom. So the first thing we need to do is shorten these motor wires. Alright, I have stripped all these wires back. Now we just need to dip them in some flux. And we're just going to tin these wires quickly. Just a little rosin scraped onto these pads. Make sure you keep your soldering iron clean. Throw a little solder on each of these pads. As you can see, it doesn't take much skill because the pads on these ESCs, they're just so nice for soldering. Now we need to mount the ESCs to the frame. All of the ESCs are soldered to the power distribution board, and I have run those wires up through those holes in the bottom. Alright, so far I have secured the ESCs to the bottom of the frame. I have soldered them into the power distribution board, and then I have soldered all of the black and white leads directly to the flight controller. I'm using an SP Racing F3 flight controller that's flashed with Betaflight. I had to directly solder the black and white leads from the ESCs to the board. If this is your very first build, this is the front of the quad, this is the back of the quad. The motor order, and it's labeled on the pad, the motor order is 1, 2, 3, 4. One final note, you do have to use a power distribution board that puts out 5 volts. You need 5 volts to power the flight controller and your receiver. And so I stole that power from my power distribution board and ran it with these little leads. I just went up to channel number 7 since I'm not using channel number 7, and I used the ground and the power to plug into my flight controller so that my flight controller would have power from the 5 volt supply on the power distribution board. We just need to get the receiver wired up. We need to configure our flight controller and put the top frame on. Alright, I went ahead and mounted my receiver to the back. I don't know if that's going to be the, the permanent location if it's not all update. But other than that, we need to get a FPV system on there. I'm considering using this camera sold by HobbyMate. I just think for the simplicity and for what I have on hand, and to do something a little bit different, I'm thinking about mounting this little guy right inside here. So here it is, all put together. I don't know if it shows up on the camera very well next to my hand, but this little quad is awesome. The build was really fun. I've built small quadcopters before and it was very frustrating because the components were too tiny. But the way that this is laid out and the way that this is designed and built, I genuinely enjoyed building it, and you can see in my hand just how little this quad is. So let's get it outside and take it for a test flight and see what we think. Alright, let's just try a quick punch out. I've got a monster battery on here, so I think the punch out will be a lot better if I can get a smaller battery. That's a 1500 mAh3 cell, which is way too big for this quad. But it's what I had on hand. So let's try one more punch out and then we'll try a flip. Well, that's not bad. Try a flip. Oh yeah. Oh, this thing is sweet. One more flip. And there we go. As I'm sure you could see in the flight video, the flight characteristics on it are excellent. It's extremely stable. I think a lot of that has to do with how well balanced it is. I know that this frame can hold a full-size camera, but I just use this micro camera sold by HobbyMate just because I had it on hand. And I think it ended up looking really cool. It's a super compact build. You got the little antenna sticking out the top. I'm in love with this little quadcopter. These tiny little motors just rip, and they seem like really, really high quality. So HobbyMate did a good job with all of the components that they've put on this quadcopter, and I am glad that this is a part of my fleet. So this is for sure a wish list item, and a thumbs up all the way on this one. So HobbyMate, great job on the X130 FPV racing quadcopter.